Carlton King, the former Scotland Yard Special Branch and MI6 officer and the author of Black Ops.
I was undercover for Special Branch in a jihadi organisation.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe for free.
My name is Carlton King, and welcome to the Black Spy Podcast, the show that shines a light on the world of secret intelligence, national security, and armed governmental personal protection operations, and puts that in the context of the geopolitics that we all live in this world. And of course, we've seen that geopolitics no greater than the situation we have now in the Ukraine. So listen, thanks everybody for listening to another season. This is the season finale, end of season 3, can you believe it? And once again, as always at my end of seasons, I've got with me Dan the engineer man. Dan?
Hi Carlton, how are you?
Very good, my good friend. What's happening and how has it been for us? Have we been okay this season?
Well, from the feedback that we've had from the audience, I believe so. It's been a very nice season, actually. We have some interesting guests on, haven't we, Carl?
Yeah, fantastic guests. And also, we've covered a lot of different areas. I mean, we started off, if you remember, with the sad news that Sir Sidney Poitier had died. Mm-hmm. And we basically did a special on Sidney. We spoke about it. We spoke about the racism that he had to endure. We spoke about, really, let's say it, that the feel that he'd given to a lot of downtrodden black people to actually see another opportunity and another chance. It was the famous words of, and I remember this speech because I thought it was fantastic, and I think I may have talked to you about it before, but the great saying from that fantastic guy, Dr. Martin Luther King, when he was told by, I think it was an Italian American, why don't black people just pull themselves up by their bootstraps? And Dr. King came back and said, it's a cruel irony to tell a person or a people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps when they don't possess any boots. And I thought that was, you know what I mean? I think it's a fantastic thing. What he's basically saying is these people were enslaved after slavery ended, thrown out with no education, left there, and from that day on exploited and never given opportunity. So Dr. King was talking about that, weren't even given the rights to vote, as you know, in the South. So Sidney Poitier was born in that sort of era, that sort of time frame, because we're only talking, 70-odd years ago, and he was there 50, 60 years ago, even 40 years ago, frankly, 30 in some cases in terms of voter rights acts in the South. So, it was a good show. And as I said, with all these shows, hopefully if you have the opportunity, you should listen back to them. What did we do after that? I'm trying to remember. What was our next?
I think after that we moved on to British politics, Boris Johnson and COVID regulations.
That was it. It's my good friend, the Prime Minister, Mr. Johnson.
Where do we start with that?
Yeah, we'll start. No, well, again, very, very interesting. What I tried to do with that, it was a special, and I tried to put it into context. I tried to talk about what the Prime Minister had done, how he functioned, why it did make a difference that he was telling us one thing and he was doing something else, because I called it, COVID gate, party gate, and I just wanted to look at that sort of context and put that in context with Brexit, because, of course, it was important for the Prime Minister to show that we were doing very, very well, even though Brexit had frankly diminished our capacity in the world and diminished our capacity economically and, to some sense, militarily. So it was a great show. We looked at everything, and I think we did all right. I mean, what did you think about that?
I thought it was it was a very enlightening show.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Look, as with all of the episodes that we do, we try and give you a picture. You know, I put a picture out there for you. You can look at that picture as a listener. Obviously, I'm using a metaphor. You can look at that picture as a listener and choose to see what you see from it. But I just want to give you all the angles. So that's why I'm going to jump all the way forward to the very last episode where we spoke about a politician, to President Putin. And I'm going to say what we said with him, you know, mad, bad, or strategic. And again, I put everything out there for people to see what Russia might think. Of course, I don't know what's in President Putin's mind, but I can tell you the strategic overview from my 30-odd years in the world of secret intelligence, national security and geopolitics. So I can give you that strategic view. I can give you their view of NATO, because, you know, I've spoken to Russians and see their view of NATO and how they perceive themselves to be surrounded by it. But, of course, he foxed me. I didn't think he'd invade. You know, I'll put my hands up. I didn't think he'd invade.
No.
Yes, we were pushing him all the way by pushing NATO forward, but in the end, I thought that he wouldn't have done it. He did. Now, as I say, and it's up to you to listen once again to the particular episode and get out what you feel from it. As I've said, up to now, even up to this day, you have not seen an all-out Russian attack. I don't think that's their intention. As I said at the end of the programme, I think their intention is to try and negotiate a situation whereby they have a three-way split. So that is, I should go back. If you can remember, Dan, what I was saying is that there's been 6 years of war in eastern Ukraine up to now, before he even went in, with the Russians carrying out special forces activity in the east and helping Russian speakers, so ethnic Russians. They will say to defend themselves. The Ukrainians will say to secede from the Union. And this is what it's all about in politics, always several sides. And so the Russians have been in there and the Ukrainian army's been fighting them. And an interesting element, a Ukrainian militia that is ultra right-wing nationalists has also been fighting in there. So I put all that into the context, and what we then did was to give you the view and for you to make up your own minds. Now, what did you think about that?
I thought it was a very interesting episode. While we're on this subject, can I just ask you about, have you noticed a difference in the way that refugees have been treated coming from Ukraine? Whereas we're seeing conflicts all over the world, places like Yemen, Venezuela, and it's not talked about by the Western world. And really, a lot of these refugees are sort of ignored. Have you noticed a difference with how these Ukrainians are being treated?
Yes, I have. I absolutely have. As a general rule, and I think I've said this about 2 seasons back, the vast majority of refugees do not come to the West. Number one, we won't let them in. So that's what you're relating to.
Yeah.
There's people sat here who have family who are in countries that they've been trying to get to Britain for the last 15 years that I know of. Now, people might turn around and say, well, why should we bring them in? Well, what we've got to realise is that at one stage, the United Kingdom, the greatest power the world has ever seen in terms of land mass and population of its empire. So basically, at the turn of the Second World War, indeed even after it, the United Kingdom basically had a third of the world under its power. So a third of the world was run from the United Kingdom in some way, shape or means, and a third of the population of the world was run from the United Kingdom. Now, what that meant was that in every war we had, First World War, Second World War, go back to the War of Trafalgar. Obviously, for some of the older colonies like the Caribbean and various areas, they've been fighting in British wars on the side of Britain since 1650s, 1670s. Battle of Trafalgar, you can see that Admiral Lord Nelson is being held up by 2 black guys. So what I'm saying is that throughout, Britain has been fighting these wars, and the people from these different lands that Britain used to run, which is now known as the Commonwealth, which before used to be the Empire. And of course, we don't run the Commonwealth, but the Queen is the head of the Commonwealth still. And it was just Commonwealth Day the other day. All of these people have some connection to Britain, and not that long ago. So, as an example, I tend to use Indians. It used to be British India. It's now split up into several different countries, split up into India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka down south. And you could even kind of put Nepal in that as well. All of the Nepalese are still in the army and have been forever and a day, because we know them as great fighters. So we've always had, and we still do have, the Gurkhas, who are Nepalese, who fight on the side of Britain. And the two wars that I am the most, well, no, I did something in the Yugoslavian wars, but the two wars where we carried out invasions, by the way, in Afghanistan and Iraq, that I used to go to practically every month, either in secret intelligence or on national security personal protection operations, Gurkhas were always there. So, these people fought for us, but, we used to say to Gurkhas, you can't bring your family in.
Yeah.
They've been fighting in our army, but you can't bring your family in. But yet still we're bringing people in who have never fought for the United Kingdom. Now, you could argue they fought on the side of the Soviet Union in the Second World War, and it was the Soviets who bled out the Germans. That's absolutely true. But you also need to know that there was a significant number of Ukrainians who fought for the Germans in the Second World War and exterminated a lot of their own people, and especially Russian-speaking Ukrainians. So this is the history that I provide for you to understand that conflict. And yes, there should be a reason why we protect people. The Afghans who fought for us in the Afghan war, which we invaded, they didn't ask us to come in, we invaded their land. And those that then made some sort of accommodation with us, because, let's face it, most of us, including me, did not speak Dari or Pashtun or any of the languages that are in Afghanistan, so we needed their assistance as interpreters, as soldiers. I mean, their soldiers used to die every two seconds, when I was out there fighting with the coalition forces. So, yeah, there's an argument that we should be doing more for those people, and we haven't. So, your question is valid. Why are we doing more for Ukrainians?
Why are we doing more?
Again, I leave that to people to assess why they might think that is. Is it that we just want to give Russia a kicking, or is it something that's, I don't want to think it, but something that's even worse, that it's a colorism? Anyway.
Is it because it's close to home? Closer to home? It's not close. Well, I suppose it's not.
Well, let's face it, we attacked Libya, example, and caused Libya to move from the number one country in Africa in terms of GDP per person. So, in other words, their life was good, and I've been to Libya several times, to now one of the worst countries. And the standard of living is very, very low. People fighting and killing each other every 2 minutes. And we put that in place by getting rid of Gaddafi and killing Gaddafi and bombing a whole lot of people, which included children, en masse. And people died. Many of them died. So, we shouldn't just see half the story. The Yemen example, which we still provide the aircraft to Saudi Arabia. We still provide the targeting information. This is very important. The Saudis can't function without the aircraft which we have provided, the engineering capacity which we provide, and I've been to Saudi Arabia to look at this, and I was there with our systems, and the targeting information we provide them comes from us, obviously the United States as well. And the Saudis often drop bombs on hospitals. And I'm saying often, and I mean that. I'm not exaggerating. It's often the case. So children are being killed there, but they use the weapon of starvation as well. So why are we not taking Yemenis in, especially when Aden, we ran it for about 200 years. It's men folk in the Second World War and the First World War worked in the merchant navy for us on the side of us Brits. And what I was going to say about the Indians, by the way, before, was that, the biggest number of deaths for British people in the imperial time in the First and Second World War was of Indians. For every one British person who died, you could say there was about 7 Indians who died. Because the British losses in the Second World War, just take the second, was 500,000. That's all our losses. That's through the Blitz, that's through the soldiers fighting, that's all of it. So that was it. Indians lost about 3 million. Some of them because we didn't give them the food and we sent the food back to the United Kingdom, so a lot of people starved. And others were fighting for us as soldiers. So we owe people things, and we need to understand when the other refugees come, maybe we should be just as helpful to them, to answer your question,
That's how I see it.
as we are to the Ukrainian. But anyway, that's by the by. Yeah, what else did we do this season?
I think in between all of that, I think we you had on Peter Smith.
Oh, Pete.
Spoke about money and geopolitics.
What a guy. Peter Smith was... what a guy. I mean, this was a guy who, born in Liverpool, to a regular family, realised what he wanted to do with his life, and then worked his way up to become a city banker.
Interesting guy.
Yeah. And exactly, and in investment banking,
Yeah.
you know, where the money's being made. So he spoke about the money and how it was, and indeed, whilst you're saying that, I remember that was the first of a trilogy which I had, because after Pete, I had on Matthew Harwood, another great guy, American Brit, who worked in this new modern field that I'm extremely keen to bring to the show, because I think it's a new world order.
Yeah.
And that basically is crypto and the blockchain and everything that goes with it. And there's so many people. In fact, you do some blockchain stuff, don't you? Some crypto stuff. Am I
I
right?
do get involved. Yeah, I dabble my fingers into it. Yeah.
So you dabble, and I think loads of people dabble now. So I think people really want to know what's the background to it. How does it work? How does it function? And I provided all that background in that one with Matthew, and I thought it was brilliant. And then. And what a guy he was. Then we went to the
Big Ron.
Arch Catholic, Big Ron, absolutely. Oh, bienvenue. Yeah? A guy born dirt poor, and I do mean dirt poor literally, as a American in the swamps of Louisiana. This guy made his way up from that to be, I guess he may even call him a billionaire. And it's how he functioned to make that happen. His story, Ron's story, is absolutely fantastic. And if you've ever liked that Cajun food you have, right, this is an actual real Cajun man who talks about, which for those who are not in the know, Cajuns are, you may understand the Louisiana Purchase when America bought the United States, beginning as it was then, bought from the French Louisiana for threepence in order that they could keep Haiti and places like that, which made the money from sugar and slaves. So Louisiana became part of the American system, the United States system, and Ron was one of those French speakers, Cajuns, who've ever since lived their lives kind of out with but within the system of the US. Sort of, if you've seen that movie, Deliverance, it was called, fantastic movie, that shows you the Cajuns, how they were living in the swamps and stuff. Fantastic, what a guy he was. And he explained how the monetary system works, how the world works in money, how capital works at its absolute starkest. Superb show. Loved it.
Yeah, I think after we spoke to Ron, then you spoke to Colonel Cummings?
Correct. Colonel Cummings, I had to have her back.
And there's been some news recently as well.
Yes, there has. Brilliant. You're right. I had to have Colonel Cummings back, and we've got absolutely fantastic news. Colonel Cummings was one of these people whose father was a American war hero and in Vietnam, and then she joined up, seeing her half-dead father come back from Vietnam. Special Forces he wasn't Joe Soap, he's a Special Forces soldier, and she joined the United States Air Force, one of the few women officers, as they were, one of the few black women officers, and she did a hell of a lot, which I went through in series 1 with her, about all of the things that she'd done throughout that period. But in this 1, season 3's talk with her, I had her back on because she had said to me that she put forward for the 6888. Do you remember the 6888, the woman's segregated unit within the Second World War, who went to Europe during that Second World War and tried to bring together a process which hadn't been working. There was a backlog of 18 months of mail, and if you know anything about the military basically lives off its mail. And if you're fighting, as people were fighting and dying in the Second World War, you want your mail, and mail was backlogged. Well, these women went in, these black women, these soldiers, and sometimes under fire, they collected the mail, got the mail sorted out, and within 6 months, the backlog had been dropped and they were dead on time. So that would be shortly after D-Day. They were back dead on time and then went to Paris and then were using the mail around Paris, so that soldiers were getting their mail from their families to keep the US morale up. Now, basically, after the war, they were forgotten. Nobody wanted to know them because it was a segregated United States, as we know, was a racist country, etc., etc. So she'd been fighting for the recognition, for congressional recognition for these women, soldiers, and frankly has just achieved it. So Nancy Pelosi signed it off very recently. She got 60 or 70% of Congress to sign off behind her. It went up to President Biden just last week, and President Biden signed it off. So you see Colonel Cummings, she's stood there with Nancy Pelosi as it's signed off so that the acts come through. And the recognition, 80 years too late, 70 years too late, but has come through because I think there's about 2 or 3 surviving.
I was going to say, majority of them are deceased.
But I think there's about 2 or 3 surviving, like they're 99, maybe 100, whatever. Who are surviving. And so that's fantastic. So she's done that.
Nice for them.
Brilliant work from Colonel Cummings. Yeah.
Who else did we have? Prior to that, I think you spoke to Jill, who you spoke to about the consequences of drug addiction.
I had to have Jill back. One of the people that you've received most information on, messages on, who it's been related to, is Jill.
Yeah.
They basically said she tells you that as it is. And it's a sobering subject, but maybe that's the showing of how many people are taking drugs and how many people are being affected by it.
I think it's a big thing. I really do.
So Jill has been, some will say hard, but I think, when I talked to her, I didn't cut any slack with her. I was on top of her, but she basically said, listen, and look, if you know Jill, she's a hard-hitting black country woman who basically doesn't cut any corners. She says things as they are. She, Irish heritage lady who are, living in that sort of area, has seen the drug field hit and has seen how, frankly, as she puts it, people who take drugs as addicted individuals, and that's many, how they use others to get what they want. And she said, if you play into that game, you'll be playing into that game all your life. So she was actually very strong, saying to parents, listen, throw them out. I mean, and that sounded harsh to me.
And me.
But she's telling you from her perspective. She's saying, I'm telling you, I've seen people drag their parents down. I've seen them steal everything out of their house. I've seen them... I've seen brothers sell their sisters, right, in order to make money. If you haven't listened to Jill in either season 1 or season 3, you must listen to Jill. She is going to tell you what the drug game is about and what it means at that micro level, to the individuals, what it means, what it is like, how tough and how hard it is in this world, and how difficult it is to get away from it. So, yeah, Jill, brilliant star, fantastic.
Yeah. And then what else did we have? I think we had a couple more guests on.
I remember we ran into the world of TV.
We did.
Music, TV, theatre.
That was speaking with Najam, wasn't it? Najam Ward.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, this guy is brilliant. I mean, he showed you how it is to want to make your way through and then to do it. how he came into the world basically working at HMV, saw an opportunity to make his own record label, started his own label, worked his way through, admits that he probably made mistakes, but then realised, hey, you know what? I fancy another area. I fancy going into acting. Went into acting and then realised, no, what I like better than acting is actually to be the producer, the scriptwriter, the director maybe even, and to move into that area. So, I mean, Najan's in an industry that we all, which is a billion dollars industry, that we all look to, that takes up so much of our lives now. This was an extremely interesting industry. A man of Asian heritage worked his way through and has got to a position of interest. And working with, by the way, Ashley
Walters.
Ashley Walters from Top Boy. Yeah, Top Boy. Who, by the way, I could say it, we've got him onto the show. He will be coming on. Yeah, he'll be coming on the next season.
Okay.
So he's coming on season 4 coming up. I'd say in about 3 or 4 weeks' time we'll have him on. So Ashley Walters will be on our show, ladies and gentlemen. You'll be able to hear what Ashley thinks, how he got into the industry and what that was about for him. So I won't say any more of that, but I've got his word. He's coming on to the show. So that's going to be fantastic.
Good to hear. That's
fantastic.
Good to hear, Carl.
And then one that you were able to bag me, to get me into, which I've always wanted on the show for some time, because I've wanted a top boxer on the show, and I got one. And what a show that was.
Yeah, we spoke to Marcello Render.
Yeah, absolutely. He was, and the beauty of Cello was he was in no way, shape or means shy or fearful of speaking out about the boxing system.
Right, okay.
You know, and I love that bit, because he spoke about, can we call it corruption? I think we can.
Yeah, we can.
I think we can. He was talking about how that is happening in boxing. I mean, one of the things I remember him saying, which I found was absolutely interesting, was when he said on one decision, he said the ref had his hand, you know, the ref holds the person's hand, he lifts the boxer's hand up, who's won. So the ref had his hand, started lifting his hand up, and then he was told, no, it's not him, it's the other fella. Because obviously it had already been lined up. Yeah. It's going to be the other fella who's going to win, no matter what the score is. So I found that very, very interesting how Cello dealt with that. Also, did you hear when he was talking about health elements? I found that quite interesting, that he was willing to speak about health, that he was saying when he was boxing he hadn't really considered it, but now he considers what those tough fights.
They take a lot out of people, don't they? They definitely do. You shouldn't be getting hit like that.
Absolutely.
And you see it in a lot of boxers. They all seem to have a lisp, or they seem to run into problems later on in life. We see it with Muhammad Ali, Parkinson's, Freddie Roach is the same. So yeah, it's not good to be getting hit that much, and that's why people like Floyd Mayweather are so impressive.
Yeah, I mean, but what I do to him out of Cello is he admitted that. He said, now I think about it, I didn't think about it when I was in the game. He said, I just didn't consider it.
I think it's that hunger for you want to win it. I think maybe when you're in it, your drive is to just win and be the best. And it's only maybe when you reflect on your career and you sit down and you realise what you've actually done that you start to think, actually, there's a secondary effect, and that's my health.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot here, because you did a bit of this gentleman boxing nonsense, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I should have trained, let's put it that way.
And I think you thought that what Cello was doing was easy. But the moment you got
a hard
tell the people what it was
sport. I had to do 3 rounds, 2-minute rounds. After 1 minute of the first round, I was knackered. It's a hard sport, so how these people go 12 round whilst getting punched, it's impressive, it really is.
And that's what I say. I mean, what Cello is doing now and continue doing, which I think is worth letting people know about, is that he has got this sort of, and if you listen to the podcast, you will hear where he tells you the club that he's got to help people. Because what I found interesting with him, he did say to me that in a way boxing saved him. It robbed him, but it saved him. Mm-hmm. Because what he did say is he was basically fighting because he kind of liked the fighting. And he said when he got hit in the face, I found this astounding. When he got, because I'm a kung fu man, and I was pretty good at kung fu, but what I never did and never wanted to happen was to ever get hit. So I was always blocking. I blocked everything. I used to spend literally hours just practicing blocking people because I never wanted my face to be hit. Cello said he loved getting hit.
He thrives off it, yeah.
And I couldn't understand that. I said, Cello, what are you talking about? He said, no, it made me feel alive when I got hit in the face. I could feel it. And so that was, again, an interesting psychological aspect about the fight game, the boxing game, that you need to want to be able to take a hit, take a punch, which is something that I never wanted to happen to me, but he clearly did. And what was it like for you when you took blows in that? I know you had face guard on and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. To be honest, I think with the adrenaline, you don't really feel it.
Come off, you were getting levered.
Oh, no, I didn't feel like you don't really feel it. But I can imagine, obviously, professional boxing is completely different. You've got guys who, this is what they do. They're trained to hurt people. But I can see where he's coming from. I think maybe it's a bit of an adrenaline rush, but I wouldn't say I like getting hit, no.
See, the beautiful thing with him was he said, when he was, as you know, the guy's a mild-mannered fella. Can't have a moment. He said, but when I was in the ring, I want to hurt people.
Yeah.
And so, by the way, if you don't know, you must listen to that podcast. But if you don't know, Cello's greatest fame, other than going into, what's that? What was he in the fight?
He was in Prize Fighter.
And should have won it, by the way. He was robbed from that. Prize Fighter. That he had the greatest thing ever, the double knockdown.
Oh, that double knockdown, yeah.
When both guth of them put a punch at each other, both fighters, at the same time they knocked each other out.
Yeah.
They were like knocking each other out, both of them were laying down on the canvas. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Only time I've ever seen that. I don't think I've ever seen it.
I've not seen it anywhere else either.
So he has basically got this record of being in a fight where he and his opponent both knocked each other at the same time, knocked each other out. Absolutely fantastic. So listen, that was a brilliant episode of the show. Yeah. Absolutely. So I mean, that was the run through of this season's shows. If you haven't seen any, as I said, you can get them all on either Spotify, on Deezer, on iTunes, Galaxy. Look, there's 1,001 places that run the show now. So the show actually gets put out in the States, Poland, put out all over the place with different. Some people are putting it out who I've never even heard of, and I don't know where they come from. In Denmark, they're putting it out under a different system. I know nothing about it. They're just putting them out. So it's been put out. I believe it's been put out in Vietnam or something like that. It's been put out all over the place. And I don't even know about it.
Shows the interest for the show, then, doesn't it? So.
It does. Shows the interest for the show, and I don't know about what these platforms are. I don't know what they're doing, but anyway, they've got the show and they're putting it out. Obviously, it's on YouTube, so you can see it on YouTube. So yeah, it's the show's going along. So that's very, very good. Next season, I just want to quickly say, in addition to Ashley Walters, I think I'm going to grab back Winston, who is another actor as well, who did very well, because one of the things I wanted from Winston was he was the world champion at martial arts, and I didn't really look so much into that, but I want to look into that martial arts bit with him and what he's now doing subsequently, because I think he's gone into the production field and things like that. I also wanted back, and I will try and get him to come back on, basically the number one literary agent in the world and number one author, definitely of secret work, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at his work on Lord Louis Mountbatten and on the traitor king Andrew Lowney. Now Andrew said he would come back on the show and was very keen to come back on the show once the court case, to see if he could get hold of the papers of Lord Mountbatten, because there's a lot of stuff that's gone on with Lord Mountbatten. I mean, in terms of paedophilia, right? And you know, Lord Mountbatten is basically the cousin of the Queen.
Yeah.
Right? Now, he was battling, spent a hell of a lot of his own money, I'm talking hundreds of thousands, to try and get this information. And he said he would come back on the show once he got this information, so we can now go over all of those bits and bats that are presently hidden and now illegally hidden. He's trying to get them opened so he can speak about them. He's written his book, The Traitor King, and his book, The Mountbattens, but he wanted to look at the other areas and angles that he couldn't get to at that particular time. As I said, it's gone to the High Court. So I'd like to get Andrew back on the show, coming through. I've got my iron in the fire for, and I won't say any names, for another A-list actress. I say actress because obviously we say actor, but it's a she. I've got my irons in the fire for a professional footballer, Premiership. I had my irons in the fire for a professional football manager, Premiership. And we'll see if we can indeed pick these guys and gals up. And also, I've been looking at British, you know the terminology better than me, mate, not rap, but sort of garage,
grime.
A grime guy who I've been trying to get to get him on the show. And I'll be truthful to you. The music's great. The music's got great sounds, but it's the message I don't particularly like. So I want to speak to the guys about the message and see why it's the message.
Yeah.
So the lad's a little bit, yeah, no, yeah, will, no, yeah, will. But I want to get to that guy and see if we can get him on the show. So yeah, this is where we are for the coming season. Hopefully we'll get a lot of people on and work our way through. Now, you did say you had some info from listeners, yeah?
Yeah, I think what we normally do at the end of each season, don't we, is we take a couple of questions from the listeners. So let's start off. I think I've got a couple of video clips, actually, voice clips, so we'll just play one of these first.
Okay.
Just from a fan. And yeah, they're just going to ask you a quick question.
Okay.
Hi Carlton, my name is Gina from Rochdale in Manchester, and thank you for taking my question, which is, have you ever had to brandish your weapon while looking after a dignitary in your care? Thank you.
Well, Gina, that's a good question. Yeah, many a time. Obviously, it depends on where you were talking about. If I'm in somewhere like Afghanistan and Iraq, where I was all the time, I was carrying openly machine pistol, heavy machine pistol, or sometimes a smaller MP5 Courts, a small machine pistol, as well as my sidearm and stuff like that. So obviously that was openly put. Did I ever point those weapons at somebody? I can, absolutely. I mean, I can remember being in the... I'll give you two instances, which I think you might find interesting. We used to go with the Secretary of State for Defence, so our guy who runs all of the military as the politician who runs it all. We used to go to Iraq all the time, and I was in the Iraqi HQ for the military, and in the defence area where their Secretary of State for Defence sat, along sometimes with their Prime Minister and their Foreign Secretary. Now, it's heavily guarded by Iraqis, it was. So we go in, and I obviously go in with your man, and I'm carrying heavy equipment. And what I did know is that I couldn't trust all of those Iraqis. So when I was coming down with your man, or going up with your man, my weapon were pointed at those guys. Right?
Just in case.
I didn't know which one of those guys is, a jihadi or whose sister, brother, uncle, mother, grandmother had been kidnapped that day, and they said, your mother dies and all your family dies unless you take out this this British guy who's turning up. Yeah, this British dog, as they would put it, who started the war against us, right? Because obviously he's a big fish, just down from the Prime Minister. So I literally used to have my weapon and my team, because I was running the team, obviously, my team, I'd say, get your weapons pointed at these guys. I'm not saying it looks terrible, but that's reality. Because we don't know when it's going to turn down, when the war's on the cards. So I give you another example of that, which I was with the Secretary of State for Overseas Development, which is where the United Kingdom provides money. The Secretary of State, as you know, is just below the Prime Minister. So we were in the occupied territories of Palestine, and I'd done all my advanced positions, got information, been there, seen the scene, got there a week before to know what the score was. Spoke to good friends of mine in the Palestinian system that I knew quite well from the West Bank. Now, Gaza's a little bit different. In Gaza, it was always a hotbed, but the West Bank was okay, and I knew guys in the West Bank, in the Palestinian Imperial Guard for Yasser Arafat and others when he was alive, and then subsequently others. So I knew these guys, and they said, okay, we'll come to Gaza with you. So we'll send our guys over to the Gaza area, as well as you being there. And I had my team, armed with, if you know weapons, Eckler & Koch G36, so long barrel weapons. I was with an MP5 Coates, which is a shorter machine gun, and a sidearm, and body armoured up and the likes. So we were there, we visited the hospital, the one hospital there was in Gaza, and as we came out and stepped out the door, all I heard was rounds go off. So my thing was, I can hear rounds going off, machine gun fire. So I said to my guys, obviously we were in, can you see anything? As I'm dragging the old man and thinking, and he's not an old man, he's as young as me, as I'm thinking to myself, which way, backwards into the building or forwards into the vehicle?
Split decision.
So what I said was, right, we're going to go forward into the vehicles. Because if I go back into the building and it's a full-on attack, I'm stuck in the building. If I go into the vehicles, maybe we can drive off.
Is that what training tells you to do?
Well, yeah, but it's my decision. It's my decision. It's my decision.
Okay.
I've got to make my decisions. I'm thinking very quickly. So I'm saying to my guys, I got my guys spread out, and I've got all these Palestinians with me, and I got Palestinian special police from Gaza with me. So I've got the Imperial Guard, if they call them that, from West. So they're all looking around. So I put my man down. I said, are you okay? I'm looking for any bullet holes in him. Checking myself, I've got nothing on me. So then I said, we're going to have to go rock and roll. So have any of my guys seen anything? Collapse the bag in, get into the vehicles, we're gone. So we did that all over, trying to find some information out. Previously, I'd spoken to all of our intelligence sources, be that Israeli, be that Palestinian, be that my own people, be it Americans. And they hadn't given me anything. They hadn't had anything to suggest that there's going to be a problem, right? So what I then did is I said, right, I've got to make a decision now. Do we carry on with our visit, which was to go to a special area, which used to bring all of the stuff into Gaza, all of the goods that came through Gaza? It's called Carney Crossing. Do I go into Carney Crossing, or do we just hightail it straight out into Israel proper? Right, into Israel. Right. So I said to the Secretary of State, listen, that's gone down. I don't know what it is yet. I'm going to try and find out what it is. I then subsequently learned that basically the general in charge of the Palestinian from Fatah, there's many factions of Palestine. So from Fatah, who were running the Gaza at the time, that he had been murdered, or they'd attempted to murder him and actually kill his children. And somebody was just letting rounds off in the hospital, right?
Okay.
So I say, do we sort of carry on? How important is this to you now to make sure that Carney gets running, that do we carry on? I've got a whole load of police around me, a whole load of systems set up, different types of Palestinian police. I know the Israelis aren't going to come in if there's a problem. They will not break that seal to come in. I sought previously American assistance from their Sixth Fleet if there was a problem, and they say, well, yeah, but we're not going to come in, So I know I'm by myself, type of thing. We don't have any forces there, really, the United Kingdom, to aid and assist me. So I say, right, we're near to Carney. We'll do the Carney bit because that's where the crossing is anyway. So we'll back into Israel. So we'll do that bit. Now, inside the Palestinian special police that came from Gaza, I put one of my guys. I put him in there with a machine pistol and his sidearm, just to keep an eye on him. It's what you call a CAT team. A CAT team is a heavily armed team that if an action happens, that team goes forward and takes on the enemy while we skedaddle with the principal, okay, with the person you're protecting. So one of my guys is in that vehicle. Great guy he was. Very capable fella. Was, before he came into Special Branch, which he was, or SO1, he was part of the Met's Special Weapons and Tactics team, the sort of special armed team for the Met. So he knew what he was doing. He could use all different types of weapons. He's very, very good, very tactically sound. So I put him in there, but was covering him with other guys in other vehicles, because you got big convoys, like several vehicles around covering him just in case there's any problems. So when we wheeled into Carney, I'm in with the principal, hand on my machine pistol. I got guys behind me. I get a call from him saying, "We're not coming in." I said, "What do you mean you're not coming in?" So the CAT's got to stay with the principal. Yeah, the CAT team must be there, because if anything happens, you're going to take the enemy on. He said, "I've said to them that we're not coming in. They're just staying outside." Now they're laughing at me. Right. So I said, "Well, listen, mate, keep the line open." So I go to the general, whom I know, good colleague of mine from West Bank, and I say, "Ahmed," he's called General. I said, "General Ahmed, your Gaza Special Police Unit has not come in. You need to get them in." I said, "And now?" So he speaks to me in Arabic. My Arabic's always been very poor, so I don't know what he's saying, but I know he's saying it. So I said to the guy in the vehicle, my guy in the vehicle, who doesn't speak Arabic at all, I said, what's he say? "Well, something's come over the radio, I can hear it, but they're just laughing." Right. I said, "Get yourself prepared, mate." So he's put his hand on his machine pistol, and he said, "They're now beginning to reverse backwards." I said, "You can't let them reverse backwards, mate." So I'm thinking he's going to end up in an orange jumpsuit, and he's finished, because I've now understood that this team must be the enemy, which is Hamas. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, flipping heck. And then I realise, it hasn't been given to me before, that this attack on the general was the beginning of a Hamas trying to take over in Gaza.
Okay.
So take away from Fatah and take over. And these special police are part of them. Right?
And you're stuck in the midst of all this.
I'm stuck in it, and my guy is going to end up as a hostage and sort it out. Mm-hmm. So I said, "Listen, we need to get my man out," to the General Ahmed, "and if need be, I'm taking half of my men. I can't leave my principal alone.
Yeah.
I've got to keep the minister alive, Secretary of State alive, because if they capture him, it's all over. And Britain's going to be fighting a war for heaven and a day, so I can't leave that." So basically what I say is, I said, "Listen, I'm going to take some of my guys, and we're going to challenge that, unless you can get your guys to sort this out." He said, "Oh, leave it with me, Colin, I'll do it." So he sends his guys over, a colonel and somebody else with some of his guys over, and I sent two of mine. So it was a standoff with these guys in the vehicle. Let him out. No, they're laughing, let him out. And luckily then they just dump him and then they fire off. But he was nearly ending up as a hostage.
Yeah.
So, yes, this is what happens, my friend. When you're doing these jobs around the world, this could be in Colombia, it could be in Somalia, it could be in Congo. In Congo, okay, as an example, I'm speaking to a general, and the general's like 13.
Seriously?
Absolutely. These kids are fighting from the time they're 7, 8 years old. This is what makes me, when we'd come back to Ukraine.
Yeah.
People don't understand this. The biggest war since the Second World War is the war in Congo. 5 million people lost their life. Nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
And nobody cares.
Yeah. It's not talked about, is it?
Right?
Mainstream
Nobody
media
knows
at all.
and nobody cares. It's the wealthiest place in the world, nearly, Congo. Only one of the few places where you can get cobalt that you need for your mobile phone, titanium you need for this you need for that, this you need for the other.
You mean wealthy mining, mineral-wise?
All sits in Congo. All of it sits in Congo. Right?
Yeah.
But these people are dirt poor. Because it suits the men at the top, the wealthy men, to pay warlords off So they can get it at half the price, or half the price, an eighth of the price, an 80th of the price, and they put their money in Switzerland or in London, the warlords, and they live a lot higher than the hog. If you're talking about taking Russians' money out of London, you want to take money from these type of guys.
Yeah.
And the children fighting the war, they're picking them up, kidnapping them, boys and girls, and they're having them fighting. And they're like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age. And this is what I'm saying, a general 13, 14. Right? The gun's bigger than the guy. Right? But you can't turn around and say, oh, listen, no, you've got to respect him as a general, because these people will kill you. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's what they've been brought up doing from the time they were dead small. Half of them, they've drugged them up half the time. Right? So this is what you're getting. So you've got to keep your wits on. Right? And so, yes, many a time my weapons have been out. Many a time. And you've always got to think you do not want to be pulling the trigger, but you do have to be ready in case you need to pull the trigger. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is the case.
Completely. Sticking on this subject for a moment, how often do these attempts on presidents, prime ministers, people in power, how often do they actually take place? The reason I ask is I saw... I think it was a podcast actually. I can't remember who it was who was speaking, but the guest stated that they happen all the time. We just don't hear about them. Is that true? Right. Is that the case?
The actual attempts on first world guys like President of the United States, Prime Minister Britain, Germany, France, maybe Australia, first world guys, China. Not that often.
No? Okay.
Because what happens is, people like me doing my work previously in secret intelligence area or in national security area are preventing a lot of these actions from happening. Okay. When it comes down to the prop man, because I've been in all three areas, which is unique, absolutely unique. I've been the secret intelligence fella, getting the intelligence, knowing what's going on from abroad and being all about. I've been the national security guy, looking at it from internally and seeing who might be planning bits and baps and whatever else to do whatever. And then I've been the prop guy. So as the prop guy, see, when I said to you before when I was in Gaza, I'd been to all the secret intelligence guys. I've been to CIA, MI6, Mossad, or in this case, I went to both Mossad and Shin Bet, both the Israeli organisations. I've been to Palestinian JID, National. I've been to JID, which is who are very, very good, who also know a lot of stuff, the Jordanians. I've been to all those about Gaza, because they've all got connections. And I've been to them all, say, what's happening in Gaza? Nothing. Right? So this is the secret intelligence and the national security you're getting, and nothing's coming through. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? As a prop man, I can't say, oh, it's all clear. As a protection guy, no. As a national security guy and secret intelligence guy, I can say it's all clear because my life isn't on the line because I'm not doing it.
Of course.
You know, my life's on the line trying to get the info, but I'm not doing it. As a prop guy, if they're killing that man, they're killing you 9 times out of 10. Right,
Yeah.
So you've got to be thinking, right, so for me, I used to have this matrix, and I used to call it risk-threat analysis. So I'd look at the risk, the threat, and then I'd say, this now only leads to my other analysis. It doesn't say there is no threat. It just says nobody knows about the threat.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I see.
I can't depend on that. That is a what I call a multiplier. If somebody turns around and says to me, right, there's a guy driving around in a green van, and I've had this, by the way, in a green van, and he's going to explode the van into you. And he knows it. He knows you're here, and his job is to drive it was a taxi, in fact. He's going to blow you up in it. Right? First and foremost, how do I know it's green? How do I know it's not blue? How do I know it's not red? How do I know it's not black?
Yeah.
Because his code might be green. So if you were listening to him via what we'd call our NSA or in our case GCHQ via signals intelligence, so you're listening to them, they are aware of and you're being listened, so they may give a different code. So green may mean orange, who knows, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to figure that process out. So you're not just on your marks looking for a green van, you're on your mark looking for
every van,
or any vehicle.
How do you know a van's a van?
Any vehicle. Could be a donkey,
Exactly.
could be whatever, right? So this is how you've got to play as a protection guy. right? You've got to be thinking
threat
all
never
around
ends.
it. Exactly. You've got to be thinking all around the threat. And on one, we did when we were in Afghanistan, and that message came out. We had to go. I say, do you need to go? Secretary of State, need to be there, need to talk this. The war's demands, we need to go and find out so I can see the Prime Minister what our actions are. Okay, we're going to go, but we got X amount of hours. Right, we're going to do it. So we go, and we go there, and we're going to do it, and nothing happens to us. But on the way back to the airport, I see a convoy that's just been blown up.
Okay.
And that was meant to be us.
Right, Jesus.
See what I'm saying? They just blown it up. There were Germans who got blown up. A couple of Germans got blown up in that convoy. That's how easy it is. Yeah. Boom. He's got it there. Clearly thinking it was...
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. So you've always got to be thinking, the intel might be, but intel isn't telling you only a little bit of something. Intel can never tell you everything. Because on the day, you just may change your mind. Say, we're not going to do that, or we'll do it that way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
You cannot depend on it being one way. It's a multiplier, helps you, because it helps me then think, okay, instead of taking 5 guys, I'll take 15 guys, or 4 guys, or 8 guys and gals, or I'll do this, or I'll make sure I can get this assistance from whomever, or I'll make sure I've got this way, or what I'll do is I will make sure I've got helicopters over the top, or AWACS, or whatever it might be. So you're looking at everything to diminish your sense of threat. But in some places, I'm just saying to you, like Congo, you've not got all that capacity. You've got to be working your own capacity, and you've got to work with this 15-year-old general, 13-year-old general. You've got to work with him.
That's strange to do that, I bet. Yeah, that's strange.
And what this guy done, just turn on you. At the end of the day. This is the process. Yeah, so that was that, mate. So, Gina, that's to your answer. Yes, is your answer.
And then, I've got one more here from Mike, and he's just simply asked, what is the most dangerous situation you've found yourself in the field? Or have you already covered it?
I think I've covered that. I mean, there's loads of dangerous situations in many, many, many different places. I mean, I've obviously been doing many different kinds of things where the dangers are all different. So you can't just put it in a singular situation of being danger. I think danger is it might be mental danger. It might be you're doing something for so long that mentally it's destroying you. So there's a whole loads of different dangers that come around. And when you're under fire, example, from mortars or from rockets or whatever it might be, but is that dangerous? You can't do anything about that. It just happens. You're just there and it's happening. I mean, when we were in Iraq a lot, indeed in Afghanistan a lot, but Iraq in particular, what they used to be able to do, they call it IDF, indiscriminate fire. Now the fire was by no means indiscriminate. So the fire was coming over and it's coming into what was the British base. The biggest British base was at the airport, and the rounds were coming in Basra, and the rounds were coming in all that, and they were very, very good. And then I remember being on the Chateau Arab Waterway in a hotel in Baghdad, and the rounds were coming through, again, very, very good at some stage. So they were spot on with their mortar rounds, and you can get killed. So, but then that's not in my control. That's not in my control, but it's still dangerous. So that's what I'm saying. The dangers can be anything. Yeah. So listen, Dan, anything for you, mate? It's end of season.
No, I think it's been a great season. I look forward to obviously season 4.
Yeah, that's the one. 4
now. Got some big guests coming on. Be interesting to see what those guests have got to say.
Brilliant. Well, guys and gals, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening through this season. Hopefully you listen next season. If you've missed anything, please go back over the seasons. If you've got any ideas for guests, please punt them through to us. If you come on to any of the systems, you'll see that you can contact us as others have done and suggest what you might want to hear, or just give you ideas or suggest or even negatives, what you think about the show. Doesn't matter. Anything is good for me to understand. Dan the man will collate it as normal, and we will see you guys and gals next week.
Take care. Bye-bye.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe for free.
Here is a working class spy telling his stories, the secrets, the lives of spies. Feel free to message Carlton King on all socials and give this show 5 stars on Apple iTunes and subscribe so you never miss a single episode. For your ears only.
In a quarter of a century, I was a member of Her Majesty's Secret Intelligence Service.